Hello again, Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, back with Relic Knights and the new Alabaster Automata model. So this is part of their Masterclass line to try to get their mistakes regarding their Kickstarters corrected, and it seems to be working so far. So Fairskin09047. So there's not much, if any, lore about this model, just a little blurb on the store page where you can buy her from about being caught between being a chi and being alive. On the card, she's referenced as a human, and she's based off of the protagonist of a game called Nier Automata, which I've never played. I know almost nothing about it other than what the name and title character, or the name of the game, that what the title character looks like. That's about it. It's originally going to give a more unnatural skin tone. After seeing the card, I changed my mind. You'll see a more unnatural skin tone I eventually get to Battle Armor Cordelia Clean, but for now, getting all the flesh is readily visible. Let's see here. And well, I think that's it, because I believe the rest of this is supposed to be armor. So, let's see right now. Well, I can probably go ahead and get the hair, so there's a blonde highlight, 09258. I'm going to make her a platinum blonde, or close to it. But it's kind of mentioned in the little blurb on the store that she was captured by I believe they're the Maluthi, and bound into their service. So, fighting for the Void as a unique, but not necessarily completely willing in that regard. Okay. Now I'm going to let that dry, but that's a good start. Back in a minute. Okay. Which one? Next, I'm going to go with Violet Red 09026. This will be for her armor. I want to do that before the blindfold and cloth. I'm just going to start on her left arm, because that caught my eye first. Taking the entirety of this gauntlet. The armored sleeve would probably a bit more accurate, since it encompasses her entire arm. Going along the back thigh, I nicked the flesh up, but I'll touch that up later. There's still some awkward angles with this camera, but it's a much better setup than what I used to do. Originally thought there was more cloth here, but there really isn't. Or rather a secondary layer of cloth, but starting to ramble. Just get focused on the task at hand. Short, controlled brush strokes. It was a bit tricky on cleaning this model, just the way it's design and few tricks of assembly, but I've done much worse without instructions, so not too bad. Okay, so part of this, which I thought was armor, is actually part of the cloth, and that's fine. I'll get that touched up in a darker color later, so we're cool. I think I missed a bit of a thigh on the right leg, but we're doing touch-ups anyway, so overall my Void are becoming dominated by red, which my Harbonath the Void Reaper was inspired by the Red Death of Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Which is, if you're unaware, one of the more, probably the most iconic of the Gauntlet video games to have ever come out. At least was the most popular, being in just about every arcade I was aware of, and getting console releases with added content that nearly doubled the size of the thing. So, okay. And I'm gonna need to wait. I'll probably hit a few touch-ups before moving on. So far, so good. A little bit right there. And here. Okay. Okay. Next. Alright. I'm playing around with shading and highlights. Blackened Steel 09205. With this, going to get her. Okay, let's see if I can do this without obscuring the camera with my hand. I'm going to get her collar. Okay, and then the at least part of her blade, specifically the more decorative aspects. Let's see here, starting with the hilt. Hopefully, I'm keeping my hand out of the camera, but it is a little tricky because of the setup I have. There's nothing I can do about that. It's actually not possible for me to rearrange things in my studio to maybe better accommodate this physical limitations of the. Okay, that is actually her thumb sticking out right there, so red is still wet enough. I can just pick that out, get back to the blackened steel, and keep doing this ring. I'm a little. Might rework some of this a little later on, but here we go. I think I've got it reasonably well. So, alright. Then True Silver 09207. The rest of the blade, the rest of the sword, the actual blade portion of it, what there is of it anyway, it's clearly broken near the probably broken more than in half, but I'm going for a deliberate contradiction of light and dark on the blade, so I'm using a much brighter color than I typically would here. It's a little too wet though. Now this divot here, that may have been a casting error, but I'm not certain. So I decided to just leave it. Gives it character anyway. Okay, let's take a look. Okay. Then Tarnished Steel 09206. We'll go on the chain. Might be asking for trouble by doing these three wet on wet together here, but well, gonna give it a try anyway. So the chain starts and stops at the, depending on which way you're looking at, it goes from the hilt of the sword, wraps around her body going up to her neck. That collar is fastened into place. And this was the most difficult part to get off the sprue, and it's actually damaged slightly in the process of getting it cut off. So it's a brittle aspect of the resin itself, so just something to bear in mind while assembling. I used a clipper, and you might want to just take a saw, small bone saw or jeweler's saw, and cut it. This is, of course, going to make sure. Oh, good gravy. The joys of technical difficulties strike again. For some reason, my camera decided to start dropping hundreds of frames a second. This is again a problem I'm not sure how to solve. I've been looking into it, but I've had no luck figuring what's causing it or how to stop it. It's just a very frustrating thing I'm having to deal with this right this minute. So there are certain audio cues I can pick up on that tell me when my computer is starting to have a little fit, but I don't always pick up on them in time. Okay, there's a nice base coat on all the metal. That's just going to leave the cloth and the base, so we're just about done with this already for base coat, so back in a minute. Okay, try enough to move on. 09164 Dark Elf Skin. I find this is a decent triad for doing black cloth or dark colored cloth. Carefully picking out her blindfold. Now this, I had mistaken this for armor earlier, but it's actually cloth draped around her arm. Okay, let's see. Tricky angle with the chain in the way, but I got it. Okay, and one thing that Relic Knights has done. I've got one or two videos of these characters are dark space characters. Characters from the game cosplaying as characters from video games and or anime. So they've got Iron Chef as Solid Snake from the Metal Gear series. I've done Zenato from No Empire as Morgan from Darkstalkers. Now let's see, that's chainsaw. The chain and the cloth here intertwine. Just need to be cautious so I don't nick one while trying to paint the other. So anyway, it's fairly common to have references and homages to other games in Relic Knights, but in the same way that Malifaux draws heavily from classical literature as well as certain pop culture elements. But I even learned that there used to be a quest in World of Warcraft that was an homage to The Legend of Zelda, so happens a lot. And hey, doing an homage to Nier Automata gave us a really nice looking model here, so. Okay, let's go ahead and finish the back side here. Or go wrap around to the front. Once I finish the cloth, I'll get the base. Then I can start shading. This stage I'm keeping the brush moist but not overly wet. Though I seem to have a little too much water in quite a bit of this here. This part's going to be tricky to see if I can adjust my angle here. It's a little tricky right there. Now this again is the hand sculpted basing. In the case of Void, I've taken inspiration from Disney's The Black Hole, which was their original answer to Star Wars, before their second answer to Star Wars, which was just to flat out buy Star Wars. But it's also an example of one of those movies that was, well, where they didn't have the script ready before they started shooting, so that caused some problems, especially with the ending. That one of those things that make you go, huh? Yeah, if you're a cinematic masochist, I strongly recommend checking it out, or if you just like weird movies, it's definitely worth a peek. Okay, now, where is it? If I can get grip, Amethyst, no, Sparkling Amethyst 09105. Or, no, not this one, actually. I'm getting mixed up. Coppery Orange 0910. No, try again. Ruby Red 09101. Alright. I am trying to get dark, mix the three void associated colors on the basing, which would be Entropy Red, Chaos Orange, and Corruption Violet. Just had a long few months, so I'm getting a little mixed up right this minute. just going to get in, these are all metallics. Just going to get this ruby red on the base here. And you gotta love when I almost forget what I was doing. I'm seeing that weird pushback from my primer. I still don't know what's causing it, but so I simply filled with sculpting putty and just used a tool to put a simple spiral pattern into it. Nothing too hard there at all. Once that dries, I can start shading everything. So back in it. Alright, so some of that's still drying, but I can continue if I tread lightly. Blonde hair 09257. So as a shade, I'm going to thin this out with about 1 part water to 1 part paint to make a wash. And maybe a little more for this. It seems a little dry. Let that go into the recessed areas for hair. Okay. Then, decisions. We'll go with Blackened Steel 09205. Yeah, it seems reasonable. And get the chain. Okay, so your base coat's kind of the basic value you want. For your shade, you want a darker value of your chosen color. And the highlight, which will be dry brushed on, is going to be a lighter version of your chosen color. But that said, if you play around with your shade and highlight, you can get some interesting effects, which is something I have done many times before, especially with the metallic colors, to get, for example, rusting metal, or just to put an interesting patina on it to help it stand out. So I'm doing kind of a standard steel color for the chain itself. The rest of the metal here will be other variations of it. Sorry for talking so quietly, but I tend to whisper or stop talking altogether when I'm hyper-focused like I am now. Alright, let that dry and move on a little bit. Okay, taking another risk with Burgundy Wine 09025. The previous shading is not completely dry, but I feel it's dry enough I can kind of work with it. I might have my speaker turned up a bit too much. I'll have to check that. Thinning out, and I'm going to start on the legs. Okay, yeah. Using the brush to absorb the excess when it gets out of control. And you can really see here how the paint is flowing into the recessed areas. And that is exactly what you want with shading. Let's carefully get the back side of that gap. And the foot. backside here. I'm gonna try to let this flow down the buttocks there, and it might work. I'm just being really careful around the skin because this color is so much darker than the flesh tone. It'll make me basically, I'll have to completely restart on the skin tone if I nick it here. So I'm just being really careful. I kind of missed that area earlier, so we use a little extra paint. Okay. Carefully avoiding the metal and the cloth. Getting the right arm. Making sure to get the thumb I had to pick out after the fact. Okay. Just about there. It's turning out reasonably well so far. Alright, so kind of lucked out there. So, yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and let that dry. I've already pushed my luck enough. Okay. More paint dry, which means Dark Elf Shadow 09163. I'm going to get very little of this on my brush to start with, because I want to make sure I don't get any of this on her skin. Okay. So, first off, I'm hearing those funky noises again. Yeah, the joys of technical difficulties, right? Technologies can be great when it works, but I say use it in moderation and don't rely on it too heavily. Here's where it gets a little tricky. It's got the chains intertwined with the cloth right here. Let's see, yeah, that's good off the back. I think I just butchered the English language there for a second. Being careful around the foot. At a point where I'm only going to be able to get one, maybe two colors at a time, so that is just going to happen with shading. No way around it, just something you're going to have to deal with. Got my brush nice and wet. Oh, that flowed down nicely. Okay, avoiding the blade. And not too concerned about this getting into the base because the shading on that will be very dark. One of the darkest colors I have, in fact. So, again, I tend to stop talking when I have to focus this like this. So, that makes this creepy. It's necessity, unfortunately. So getting the job done. Besides, been doing this for over 20 years. I think over 25, and I've only started these videos fairly recently, less than 2 years ago, so I'm still not quite used to talking while I work, especially. to an audience that can't talk back. Okay, gonna let that dry completely. We're moving on. These are dry enough. I can take a chance here. Where's my pot? Adamantium Black 09124. It's a fairly new bottle. I need a little more mixing on it. And this is a metallic black. It's just about the darkest color I have. I'm using this twice, so first on the sword and collar. Be very careful not to nick the hair or the skin, as this is pretty much the darkest color I own. So caution and care is needed. Then blade, well, not the blade, the hilt of the sword, starting to get mixed up. Going for again a dark light contrast on the remnants of the sword here. Okay, let's see. So that's just going to leave the flesh, the blade, and the base, plus some prep work for a few lighting effects. So just about there. This layer is dry enough to work with. Fair Shadow 09046. Oh, I somehow managed to take the nozzle off. Let's try that again. Oh boy. Well, this is getting entertaining. Alright. Just gonna take this other brush here and try to figure out how the heck I... Okay. There we go. I think. Okay, that was something. I don't know what, but it was definitely something. Okay. Fair Shadow. Huh. That brush I use is just one that I've more or less mangled for flocking and putting glue solutions down. It's not one I need to rely on, so carefully over the face and chest, thighs, just let it flow all around. Okay, that's way too much. It's starting to obscure the cloth there. Now, Tarnished Steel 09206. For the broken blade. Making sure it gets into the grooves. pure white 09039 to set up a few lighting effects. Which seems to be running a bit thin, but I can work with it. So, back of the hand, both of them. Jewel and blade. See on both sides. And they have this groove lit up in the concept art, but I don't feel like doing that one. I think these jewels will be enough. So, I need to pull some of the excess from the leg here using my brush. Let me take a bit of that burgundy and get that back down in there. That's a little better, okay. Alright. Let that dry and then I can wrap up the shading. Okay. Let's see here. I think sparkling blue. Yeah, sparkling blue 104. I'll use this for the lighting. Just a tiny dot. And I'm going to thin this out more than usual. 2 to 3 parts water per 1 part paint. Key to a good lighting effect, or at least a decent one, is to let some of the white show through. Preferably around the center or edges. Just dotting this all over the white. Let it go where it's gonna go. I need to split that. Okay. There we go. There's one last shade to do. That's going to be Sparkling Amethyst 09105 on the base. And to reference what I've done before with my void models. I'm not completely certain if this is exactly what I've done in the last two, but I'm going to give it a shot and see what we can end up with. Go along and make sure that ends up in all the crevices. I'm going to thin that out a bit more, I think. Okay. So, a little fun factoid about Disney's The Black Hole, which, again, I've based my basing for Void on. It was basically the last movie they did using conventional practical effects, and for the black hole they used a big tank with various colored dyes swirling around in it, and they finished using it just in time because not long after they finished some of the last shots they needed it for, the tank broke. And that's shading, so once everything's nice and dry I can start highlighting and wrap this up. Alright, highlighting. Fair highlights 09048. Let's get this in the picture. Using a dry brushing technique. Let's see here. Just need to pick out the right brush. Excuse me, allergies. So using no water and rubbing most of the paint off on a paper towel till it looks like there's nothing left on the brush, just like that. Just get this out of the way. Otherwise the camera will focus on that and not the model. 2. Lightly dusty areas to be affected. Let's do Pale Violet Red 09027. You want your brush to be completely dry, so I'm switching mine pretty freely. I also want to use a ragged feathered brush for this. So something that looks alike the lines of that. A nice pointy brush is going to be your best bet for most of the work. A round brush. Going against raised edges. Refreshing as needed. Dark Elf Highlight 09165. Excuse me. What can I say? Allergies. Let me testing the cloth. Pure White 09039. Those funny noises again. Okay, I'm dropping frames. Okay, 09039 Pure White, let's try this again. Ah, the joys of technical difficulties, right? On the other hand, I am almost done. Let's see, True Silver, where are you? True Silver 09207. Making sure my rig is playing nice here. It's already giving me grief once during this clip and twice during the filming of this video. Pearl White 09100. This is a metallic white. Trying to go against the edges of that blade. Tarnished steel 09206. Any of these ready. This one. You want your brush completely dry, so just bear that in mind while painting. In my case, I've got several that are suitable for this, so I can switch fairly freely with minimal slowdown, but for just starting out this hobby, it might take you a while to build up a collection of brushes for this. Being careful around the other colors as I highlight the collar. Then Adamantium Black 09124. And this is a metallic black. Going along the base. Wash it out. Then using the same color and switching to a flathead brush. Let's see where's my best choice. Seems to have disappeared. Alright, where's my second list? There we go. So using the Adamantium Black again to line the base. So since color is so much of a thing in Relic Knights, with these 6 core factions being based on the primary and secondary colors of the color wheel, for Void I'm doing black, which is technically the absence of color, and for Radiant, white, which is pure color. So carefully going around the base. Trying to avoid my basing job. And there we go. Alabaster Automata. Okay. Alright, that's it. Oh, good grief. Okay, for some reason my computer decided to start dropping hundreds of frames and I was wrapping that up anyway, without making the telltale noises. So, I'm just going to have to keep investigating that and figure out what's going on. But that completes Alabaster Automata. Until next time, I am Ian Stuckey with Mastermind Games, signing out.